love you, baby, just for you.
I once dreamed of a distant island where talking boats and colourful creatures would welcome us with songs. We naively believed that H.R. Pufnstuf was the most devoted guardian, and the world of Living Island was a paradise of freedom. We longed to possess the talking flute Freddy, and believed that with just a bit of courage, all of Witchy Poo's schemes would vanish into thin air. But when the dust of time is brushed away, what remains is not just rainbow colours. Did you know that when the witch Witchy Poo invites guests to eat roach beef, it's actually a troll directed at the cultural censors who were tripping? And if I told you that the golden boy, Jimmy, the symbol of innocence, actually had to trade his entire life for fame, you would understand. H.R. Pufnstuf is not just an innocent morning children's show. Let's set aside the rose-tinted memories for a moment and step into the dark side of Living Island. Together, we will peel back 20 bizarre truths that have been hidden behind those freakish costumes. 20. The secret behind Witchy Poo's roach beef sandwiches dish. If you ever felt a shiver of fear every time Witchy Poo waved her wand in anger at her minions, perhaps you just thought she was a hot-tempered one. With her monstrous broom-flying style and a mouth that never stopped cursing the mayor, Witchy Poo was truly a nightmare. Yet, while parents were busy arguing about how this witch looked too aggressive, they unintentionally overlooked the truly shocking details. The network demanded that the Croft brothers cut many of Witchy Poo's scary scenes, but they still let the witch offer the characters roach beef sandwiches. Roach isn't simply a cockroach. It's slang for the butt end of a marijuana joint. This is no different from her openly offering something taboo right on national television. The censors were so busy with the magic wand that they forgot the witch was serving a menu full of stimulants. Do you remember any other dish from Witchy Poo that seemed normal as a kid but feels off when you grew up? Drop a comment below. 19. Hidden hints about stimulants in the film. Do you remember the mystical smoke that constantly veiled Living Island, or Jimmy's talking flute? As children, we saw a world of magic and wonder. But look closer. Every time that flute was played, magical smoke billowed out in a daze. Or consider the moment Freddy suddenly transformed into a giant magic mushroom. Even innocent little Jimmy once played the role of Black Bart, a name that back in the 60s was a notorious piece of street slang. Even stranger, Mayor Pufnstuf himself occasionally gives worldly advice, like telling characters to stop inhaling those mysterious vapours. These motifs sit right in the middle of a children's show, turning the fairy island into a paradise that only those who've been there can fully understand. 18. The shocking meaning behind the theme song. Remember those giant wooden TV sets back then? We were completely immersed in the music, while parents wondered why the dragon's voice on TV sounded so high. The mayor doesn't speak decisively. Instead, his words are drawn out slowly, sometimes accompanied by inexplicable laughter. But listen closely to the dragon's lyrics again. The line, "Can't do a little because you can never get enough," perfectly describes the phenomenon of tolerance. Meanwhile, the invitation, "I'll take you on a trip," sounds more like a lure to use stimulants. This song created a perfect phenomenon. It was the ideal background music for kids eating cereal on Saturday mornings, while also serving as a consciousness-altering melody for late-night parties among the youth of that era. How ironic is it that our childhood song contains such philosophies about getting high? Don't you think so? 17. The controversial design of Freddy the Flute. Do you still remember Freddy? The magical flute that always fits snugly in Jimmy's pocket, frequently appearing with a tiny fedora hat or whimsical costumes. Though just a flute, Freddy has a strong personality, sometimes even sharper than his innocent owner, Jimmy. Initially, Corinne Orr's intention in creating Freddy was purely innocent, to turn an inanimate object into Jimmy's companion. However, Freddy's elongated, rounded head shape unintentionally triggered a red alert in the producers' minds. Sid Croft even once considered rejecting this design out of fear that parents would come down hard on them. This difference creates an interesting psychological phenomenon. Adults often overthink inanimate objects, while children remain completely immune to such associations. In the end, Freddy was kept, proving that children's innocence is the best shield against the overly sensitive minds of adults. 16. The name Pufnstuf once caused TV network executives to panic. Every Saturday morning, I'd hear the cheerful name H.R. Pufnstuf in the theme song. To us as kids, the name seemed harmless. But did you know that this name caused the big bosses at NBC to lose sleep? When the name Pufnstuf was first presented, NBC's executives rejected it. They thought it sounded too feminine and even raised doubts. Why would boys abandon superheroes like Batman to watch a character with a name like Powder Puff for ladies? The Croft brothers had to convince them that kids would love this dragon anyway, no matter how soft the name sounded. If NBC had changed the show's name to something more masculine back then, what do you think our dragon mare should have been called? 50. The crazy audition to become the witch. Do you remember the witch with the piercing laugh who was always trying to steal Freddy the flute on Living Island? Witchy Poo didn't just scare kids. Behind that long nose and flashy outfit is an audition story even crazier than what appeared on screen. The audition for Witchy Poo had only 2 candidates. One was Penny Marshall, who later became a famous Hollywood director. Marshall arrived at the audition with a professional demeanour. But then Billy Hayes showed up. Instead of standing seriously, Hayes suddenly jumped straight onto the producer's desk and laughed maniacally. That out-of-control moment instantly convinced the creators. They realised that to rule over such a bizarre island, they needed a real witch willing to wreak havoc even in the office. What do you think of Billy Hayes' jump? If you were the producer back then, would you choose a polite actress or a witch who was already dancing wildly? 14. The interesting origin of Dragon Mayor H.R. Pufnstuf. The majestic yet freakish appearance of Mayor H.R. Pufnstuf always made the kids burst into laughter. He was a giant dragon with a round body like a beach ball, covered in yellow skin dotted with pink spots. We thought this dragon mayor was born from dreams, but the truth is, he started as a salesman. In 1968, Sid and Marty Croft created a dragon named Luther for the Coca-Cola booth at the World's Fair in San Antonio. Luther, then the star of Kaleidoscope, was a psychedelic-style puppet show designed to entice customers to buy more cold Coke bottles. And strangely enough, this soda advertising dragon soon transformed into the most trippy TV character in history. Have you ever seen traces of that Coca-Cola selling dragon in Mayor Pufnstuf? 13. 17 episodes and the massive budget overrun. We thought the adventures on Living Island would last forever, but the truth behind those film reels was a financial nightmare. Despite only 17 episodes, the Croft brothers racked up enormous costs. At $54,000 per episode, the show quickly exceeded the budget by $3 million. When NBC bluntly refused to provide more funding, the creators emptied their own pockets to keep their brainchild alive. In the final episode, the production team didn't even have enough money for new scenes. They had to patch together a recap from old footage to create a flashback episode. Did you feel back then that the finale was a deception, or is it a beautiful memory? 12. Marty Croft finally admitted the truth about the name Pufnstuf after 35 years. Too hot. That's how I felt watching the show. For 3 decades, sitting in front of the TV with a bowl of cereal in hand, we thought Pufnstuf was just a meaningless name. Yet behind that innocence was a joke of epic proportions. After 35 years, Marty Croft finally admitted that Pufnstuf is actually slang for a stimulant. However, the motive behind it stemmed from the creator's mischievousness. Croft simply wanted to troll the NBC executives, who were so fixated on the name sounding feminine that they overlooked the sensitive meaning hidden in it. You could say the Croft brothers pulled off a spectacular troll decades before the concept became popular on the internet. They turned a taboo word into an iconic children's name, right under the noses of TV censors. 11. The show's most loyal audience wasn't children. We thought we were the only loyal customers of Living Island. But there was another group just as addicted to the show. They were college students. In dorm rooms, these young people gathered to watch the show while high. To them, every colourful frame of H.R. Pufnstuf was a maze full of hidden meanings and surreal messages begging to be dissected. Dorm rooms turned into regular movie-watching parties, where college students found resonance between the show and their own euphoric state. 10. The strangest guardian-child star relationship in history. Surely you remember the boy Jimmy with his fluffy hair, wearing a bright yellow coat, the one who always teamed up with the mayor to fight Witchy Poo. On screen, Jimmy is an innocent 11-year-old boy on Living Island. But when playing Jimmy, Jack Wilde was already a 17-year-old teenager. To ensure smooth filming, Marty Krofft temporarily adopted Jack Wilde. This arrangement created the strangest guardian-child star relationship in TV history, where a producer became the adoptive father of an actor. Marty Krofft later admitted that this wasn't the smartest idea of his life. It was a personal sacrifice to keep the show's brightest star from crumbling under the pressures of fame too soon. The trouble with Cass Elliot. When Cass Elliot, the legendary voice of the Mamas and the Papas, appeared on the cast list, everyone was extremely excited. The production team expected a real explosion, but behind those colourful scenes was an atmosphere so frozen it was hard to believe. In reality, Sid Croft had leveraged a neighbourly connection to invite Cass Elliot to play the role of Witch Hazel, but instead of being open, the singer remained extremely distant. She maintained a cold attitude, barely interacting with anyone on the set except when the cameras were rolling. The crew members were stunned and deeply disappointed. How ironic that we can still feel her magnetic presence on screen without ever knowing about the chilliness behind the scenes. What about you? Have you ever felt let down when discovering that your idol in real life is completely different from what you had always imagined? 8. The surprisingly friendly attitude of Martha Raye. You've surely heard the reputation of Martha Raye as a difficult diva. There are anecdotes that if filming was scheduled to start at 8 a.m, that 8 a.m might be the exact moment she was just beginning to go to bed after a long night at jazz clubs. The entire crew, from the director to the lighting technicians, often had to endure long periods of hopeless waiting. But when she arrived on the H.R. Pufnstuf set, Martha was completely different from the rumours. She was cheerful, even befriending everyone, from backstage staff to minor actors, and generously treated the whole crew to dinner. In stark contrast to Cass Elliot, Martha Raye made the entire team feel incredibly comfortable. Yet life is full of paradoxes. Even though Martha was kind to everyone, Jack Wilde didn't hesitate to call her a real old cow. This shows how the same person can leave completely opposite impressions on different people. How strange that backstage love and hate can be so complex and unpredictable. 7. The 13-year legal battle. Do you still remember the bizarre dialogues between the witch and her tree minions? That was the battle between good and evil on Living Island. But in real life, the Crofts were dragged into a far more grueling war. The Croft brothers became entangled in a grueling legal battle that lasted a full 13 years, with 6 straight years in court, against McDonald's. After hiring the Crofts to design concepts, the fast food giant then shamelessly borrowed those ideas to create McDonaldland, believing money and power could delay justice forever. But in the end, in 1977, victory went to the Croft brothers. The most fascinating part of this revenge lies in the numbers. McDonald's had to pay millions in damages, but more importantly, it forever linked the success of McDonaldland to the legacy of H.R. Pufnstuf. Can you believe it? Every time a Happy Meal is sold, a hidden portion of the profit is, in a way, compensation. The Crofts turned their opponent into an unwitting employee of their own legacy through that landmark lawsuit. 6. Jack Wilde's life destroyed after fame. Our Jimmy, with his innocent and vibrant appearance, once stood as a symbol of hope and purity in the hearts of millions of children. Yet behind the spotlight, Jack Wilde's life was a tragic melody. The dazzling success from playing the artful Dodger in Oliver, earning him an Oscar nomination at age 16, and the role of Jimmy in H.R. Pufnstuf turned Jack into a millionaire by 18. But that glamour came with crushing pressure. Jack began turning to alcohol and cigarettes at a very young age to cope with stress. By age 21, Jack Wilde was officially an alcoholic. He was gradually abandoned by filmmakers because he was no longer sober enough to work. Jack later admitted he lived in a drunken fog for 20 years. Alcohol and tobacco gave him diabetes at 21 and caused him to suffer 3 heart attacks. Jack Wilde is a heartbreaking example of how some child performers can never recover from the glare of childhood stardom. 5. The bizarre crossover with Chips. If you've ever watched Chips, you might notice something familiar, but can't quite place it. That's right. Mayor H.R. Pufnstuf made a shocking cameo in the action crime series Chips, famous for its high-speed chases. In the crossover moment, the giant dragon mare was pulled over by officers Ponch and John right in the middle of the street. The funniest part was that Pufnstuf kept his wildly colourful appearance in a realistic setting, making viewers burst into laughter. This crossover proved that beloved characters can break out of their original context and appear in the most unexpected ways. How bizarre it is to see your hero being asked for ID by the police in the real world. 4. The Nike fashion collaboration. Let's go, Jimmy. Come with me. That invitation has echoed all the way to the fashion runways. Do you remember the vibrant, clashing psychedelic colours of H.R. Pufnstuf? Those very hues have been resurrected under the feet of today's fashion enthusiasts. Sportswear giant Nike created a sensation by releasing the Nike SB Dunk High Pufnstuf edition. Directly inspired by the Dragon Mare's flamboyant aesthetic, the shoe boldly combines bright green, fiery red, and sunny yellow, injecting the 60s psychedelic puppet style straight into contemporary streetwear culture. By tapping into cultural nostalgia, major brands have discovered that childhood memories are a powerful goldmine of commercial appeal. The Nike Pufnstuf sneaker isn't just fashion, it's a time travel ticket that brings those children of yesterday back to their magical world, but in a more mature, stylish form. 3. All reboot attempts have failed. Amid the booming wave of Hollywood reboots, Mayor Pufnstuf remains forever a memory of the 1970s. On multiple occasions, filmmakers tried to awaken the Dragon Mare, but every effort to revive it only met with regretful headshakes. The list of attempts to resurrect H.R. Pufnstuf is surprisingly long. The most notable was Todd Kaufman's 2005 animated project, complete with a draft featuring the rock band Finger 11 to remake the theme song. But all of them hit a dead end. These failures weren't necessarily due to lack of interest. They reveal a deeper reason. H.R. Pufnstuf is a phenomenon tied to the bizarre intersection of children's programming and the turbulent counterculture. It's a kind of magic that can't be recreated with computer effects or electronic music remixes. Living Island is a mental state of the past, and modernized versions are just soulless copies. 2. The secret behind the adorable physique of the Dragon Mare. Do you still remember those charming, waddling gestures? The perfectly timed nods synced with the authoritative yet endearing voice of Mayor Pufnstuf. As kids, we absolutely believed Pufnstuf was a single, living being. But behind that massive dragon costume was a masterful artistic collaboration. Inside the suit was performer Roberto Gamonet, responsible for every physical movement. Meanwhile, Lenny Weinrib breathed life into the character with his voice and iconic dialogue. This coordination required perfect understanding. Roberto had to move in exact sync with every tone Lenny produced, creating a seamless character so convincing that audiences never realised there were two separate people at work. 1. The hilariously absurd censorship issue. In the show, the witch Witchy Poo always got furious whenever her plan to kidnap Freddie the Flute failed. We're all too familiar with scenes of her waving her wand, screaming, and venting her anger on her foolish minions. But those seemingly harmless actions became the centre of a ridiculously funny censorship battle. The big bosses at NBC seriously demanded that the Crofts immediately stop having Witchy Poo hit her minions on the head with her wand. They declared there was too much violence in a children's programme, fearing those taps would harm young viewers' psyches. How bizarre that this powerful network freaked out over an inanimate wand, while remaining completely blind to all the drug references, magical smoke, and spiritual trips staring them right in the face. We've now peeled back the layers of secrets surrounding the strangest island in television history, but the treasure trove of memories still holds other legendary films and characters waiting to be decoded. Or do you have any other childhood shows or characters that you've always suspected hide some shocking, untold truths behind them? Let me know. I'm more than ready to join you on the continuing journey to uncover these hidden secrets.